Barrett Jones, welcome into the game in Tuscaloosa.
What's up, Ryan? How we doing, man?
Good, good. We're building a dome in Bryant-Denny. We started a GoFundMe account to get us out of the heat. Can we count on you for a couple of bucks?
Yeah, I saw there was a lot of disturbance about the heat, and we got apparently a lot of people that are getting a little soft. But I'm kidding, Ryan. It was I saw that it was pretty hot and looked pretty miserable, and a lot of disappointment. I know about this another 11 a.m. game time, so it looks like it'll be another scorcher.
Yeah, it will be. We looked it up. I think high of 92, 20% humidity in South Carolina on Saturday. So not as – I mean, it was the hottest game I've ever been to on Saturday. It was steamy. It was crazy.
Were you competing out there, or were you letting the elements determine kind of who you were and affect you?
Yeah, the elements did. I mean, I gotta admit, my Twitter game kind of slowed down in the third and fourth quarter. I
thought you would be stronger of mind than that. I mean, I'm surprised that you would let external circumstances. You got to just control what you can control. I mean, you've been in those press conferences for all that time, and yet it still hadn't sunk in with you.
Well, and Nick Saban was pretty irritated on Saturday. Then he come back on Monday and said, I probably, he was kind of taking up for the fans a little bit. So he kind of, put some sugar on it a little bit. But so, hey, is practice hotter because, for 2 hours, 2 hours and 15 minutes, you guys go toe-to-toe. There is no break. But on Saturday of the game day, there is a little bit of a break while the defense is out on the football field or the rotation. I mean, is a practice hotter than a game?
Well, that's the weird thing about football. It's a lot different, and it's in some ways hard to replicate what you do in practice versus a game because it is so long. And I think that's why you see a lot of guys cramp kind of the first few weeks because your body honestly is not used to the pattern of what you're doing. Like you think about what a game is, okay? Well, really, your juices are flowing and you're sweating and going for about 4 to 5 hours. You think about warm-ups and stretching and getting out there and doing flex and doing, going through the stretch lines, and then you're doing the warm-up drills and you come back in, you rest for about 20 minutes, then you run out of the tunnel, you got another emotion surge, you come back out, you might do a 8-play series, you go sit. So your body's just kind of stopping and starting for at least 4 hours, really probably more like, 4.5 to 5. So it's kind of it's a wild deal of a football game, just when you include warm-ups and everything that your body is not used to. So sorry to not answer your question, but the answer really is just it's different. It is a lot different than practice in some ways, because in practice you're pretty much just going for 2 straight hours after you warm up, and in the games it's a lot more stop and start.
All right, so let's go to everybody's topic of conversation. We did the good, the bad, the ugly. I think you came up with this and told us about Nick Saban doing the good, the bad, the ugly with the players. We kind of took it to Sports Talk Radio, and we do it every Monday, the good, the bad, the ugly. The good was the kicker, 48-49. We celebrated. It was almost a unanimous. All but one caller said the good was the kicker. But then on the bad and the ugly, you big nasties, man, getting some criticism here in Tuscaloosa. I know it's an annual tradition, but talk us off that cliff.
Well, I mean, it's the same talk every year. I mean, are they right? Of course they're right. I mean, it's been sloppy. There's been times where there's been missed assignments. I mean, I think the encouraging thing is, look, when you're early in the season, especially with the rules, the more and more the way they, have less hitting in the off season, which, by the way, I'm in favor for, it just is going to create sloppier offensive line play. I mean, the reality is, you're able to do 7-on-7 all off season, which that's basically, what you're doing in the game, obviously with the addition of linemen. And then you can't really do physical drills, in the summer and the off season. I mean, all you can do that is in camp, and it just takes time for guys to gel, especially when you're playing different guys. You're trying different combinations. I mean, look, Coach Saban would never say this, and this is maybe not the reality, but like there's probably, look at the schedule. You got a few weeks to figure it out. Now, again, I'm not saying that's his approach, but that's the reality that, they're trying some different guys, trying some different combinations. They want to figure out how they can be their best in November, right? And, again, that is something that would never be the mentality with the players, but that's just the reality. And so I think my summation is don't panic. Everything's fine. What's not fixable is when you have bad players, right? When you see the guys just getting routinely beat in one-on-one situations, they're bad, they're not talented, maybe they're lazy, they're slow. that's not our situation. I mean, there's a lot of talent up there. There's a lot of different guys who can play football pretty well. Now you got to just kind of figure out how to make them play well together, and you got to help them understand the flow of the game, help them understand assignments. All that's very fixable. Now it doesn't mean it's going to happen. Sometimes it doesn't happen. Sometimes you don't exactly know what you have at O-line until you get in the game. So I don't disagree with the callers. I mean, that's probably been in some ways the weak point of the team, or at least the most glaring weak point. And so, but I'll just encourage them, just hold on, because there's been a lot of other years where we've had slow starts, and towards the end of the year, that was one of the strengths of the team. So these things take time to develop, especially when you got a lot of new guys. You got three new guys in the middle, and who knows what we'll have at the end of the year.
All right, so Barrett, when you look at this football team of Alabama, is it a good measurement? I mean, is it really hard to tell? I mean, New Mexico State, Duke. I mean, you go to South Carolina this weekend, you're a 24.5-point favorite. I mean, do we really know anything about this football team so far?
Not really. I mean, I think honestly, I mean, we know that they're pretty good, but we don't know anything we didn't know. We know that Tua is really a good player, and the receiving core is good. Now, I think we've learned some things on defense. I mean, obviously, again, will there be greater tests? For sure, but I think there's some promising signs with their young linebackers, and the secondary, I think, has looked pretty solid at times. There's a lot of different guys who are contributing. So I think we've learned a few things, but, you really don't find out exactly who you are until you're faced with some adversity. So, no, I don't think we have learned that much about the football team.
All right. So when you look at the University of Alabama, as we go into South Carolina, Nick Saban was asked about the 2010 game, and I hate to bring up bad memories, but what is when I say 2010 South Carolina, what comes to mind?
Oh, a cold sweat.
Say it again.
Sandstorm. You know that song I'm speaking of, or that techno song they play the whole time at South Carolina. It's like, you know that one they play you know what I'm talking about, Ryan?
No, that's one stadium I've never been to.
Oh my goodness! Well, they play this song. You can look it up. You can play it in your next break, even though it brings back nightmares for me.
Do that singing stuff. Do that singing stuff again, like you were doing. Because I kind of like Barrett Jones as a singer.
I'm not singing. It's just kind of a techno noise, like. Anyway, that's all I'm doing. But it's a.
Can you do it one more time? Do it one more time. Just
no,
make sure.
That's it, Ryan. That's it. You pushed me too far, right, man? I'm trying to just let you into the loop here. It's a very common little deal, Sandstorm. When you play it, you'll recognize it. Anyway, they play it the whole time at the stadium, and I sometimes have nightmares thinking about that, and then that rooster crows or whatever. And yes, it was not a good day for us, and it was obviously the first game we had lost in a long time. And man, that was just a brutal plane ride home that night. So yeah, I remember it very well. They confused us a little bit up front. We didn't play very well, and Steven Garcia had the game of his life, man. He literally never played better in his life than that day. It was an incredible day for him with Alshon and Marcus Lattimore. I mean, they had a good team, but they had the game of their life that day, and they got us.
How much do you think a lot of that, looking back, was it just mentally not preparing for the game for that week leading up to the game, like the practice?
I think it was more of a mindset of the whole year. I mean, I think generally when you're Alabama and you lose, I think it's much more than just 1 week of practice, right? I mean, it's more about just the approach of the team, and you never know kind of when bad habits are going to rear their ugly head. And I think we're coming off a national championship, and we didn't work quite as hard that off season. We didn't have the same kind of drive and grit. And there were more guys that were thinking about draft stock, and for whatever reason, we just weren't as together as a unit that season as we were before. So, it's hard to put my finger on. I've often said, by far, that 2010 team, the most talented team I was ever on, as far as just pure positional talent. We were absolutely stacked. But it was the worst record and the worst team I was on, mathematically and performance-wise. And so you think, why is that? And it's hard to exactly put your finger on, but I just don't think we had the same kind of hunger. But you know what? We learned from it. That 2010 season obviously ended before the bowl game, it ended in horrible fashion with that Auburn loss. And it seems like when you just don't do the little things right the whole year, then in big moments they show up and you're not able to win the big games. And so, I'm not saying that every time you lose a game, it's necessarily like because you didn't try hard enough. But that season, it felt like for whatever reason, we just didn't have the same kind of drive and motivation. But the positive is we springboarded that into a championship the next year. And not only that, but we learned from that. We learned from our reaction the first time, and we did a lot of things differently from 11 to 12, and then we were able to go back to back. So, we learned and we got better. It was a season that I don't think we would have won those next two if it hadn't been so painful and tense.
Well, and I'll leave you with Nick Saban verbiage before I throw it back to you. He said we got the lines beat out of our britches yesterday is what he said. The lines, like the inseams, is what he was talking about. I had to do some Saban translation, but he said we got the lines beat out of our britches in South Carolina.
Yeah, that's a little bit of my page there, Ryan. I'm not even sure what that means, but I guess you could say that we certainly got manhandled. It was not good. Are you going to go this time?
No, I'm not.
Oh my. No road, Ryan, huh?
Yeah, well, I'm not going to Columbia, and I'm not going to Auburn. I am going to go Mississippi State. Texas A&M is so logistically, you get off at 6 o'clock. There's no way to make that drive and be there by 2:30 or whatever. But so, yeah, I mean, listen, after working in that heat of 110 heat index, I mean, I got to take a Saturday off, man. I'll be in front of the television screen.
Oh, you're getting complacent, Ryan. I'm just saying the old Ryan would have gone to every game and never missed one, but. I guess success has gone to your head too. It happens to the best of us.
Yeah, I've become complacent. Barrett Jones, let me throw it back to you. Get us through the work week, man.
Sure. A verse that I really like is Romans 12:1. It says, "Therefore I urge you, brothers, in view of God's mercy, to offer your bodies as a living sacrifice, holy and pleasing to God. This is your spiritual act of worship." A question I ask myself a lot of times, and something I kind of struggle back and forth with, is like, how do I really put my faith into action day by day, week by week, and that's something I pray about a lot. As far as really, like, how does it translate into my life daily? And I think a lot of times it's easy to compartmentalize our faith and think about, that's something we do on Sundays, or maybe when we have a small group or Wednesday night church or Bible study. But really, that's not how God calls us to live. He calls us to live our faith out all the time and to be totally transformed and to be different people. And really, I love this verse because it's a constant reminder to me that whatever I'm doing, whatever talents and skills that God's given me, whether it's work, whether it's recreation, I'm supposed to offer those up to God as a sacrifice and just say, God, here's all I have, all my talents, and they're yours, and I want to use those for your glory. And that verse really kind of in a lot of ways changed my life and changed who I was and the way I acted. I think for a long time, even though I was a Christian, I really wasn't playing football to honor the Lord. I was really playing it to honor myself, if I'm honest. And when I started to really understand that, it really changed my approach to how I looked at things when I started to do everything that I did in life to honor God instead of to honor myself. Because at the end of the day, you really just have two choices. You can honor yourself or you can honor the Lord. And so my encouragement is whatever you're doing, whatever your job is, whatever your role is, as a parent, father, student, do it to honor the Lord and not your own self.
Barrett Jones, two-time All-American at the University of Alabama. Barrett, real quick, where are you going this weekend?
Syracuse, Clemson, Ryan. Should be a lot of fun. It was billed as the premier ACC game for the entire season, which I know is kind of sad as an SEC fan, actually. But it's changed a lot in the last few days due to Mike Loxley beating the lining out of Syracuse pants, and now it's not quite as premier of a matchup. So it should be fun, though, and I've never been to Syracuse, so it'll be a fun journey.
No, it will be. I'd love to watch a game up in the Dome, the Carrier Domes. Barrett, have a great day, man. Thank you again, as always, for being a part.
I think they lost the Carrier sponsorship. I'm pretty sure. So down, I don't even know what it's called now. Some other Dome. Anyway.
All right, so here's your song. Here's your song. Can we sing along?
There's no singing, so.
Okay. All right.
You can hum. Can you sing it for me?
I know the song now. I didn't hear what you were talking about earlier, but now I get it. Okay, so this is the theme song of South Carolina?
Sandstorm. I mean, I don't think it's their theme song. I mean, they didn't write it, but they used it, yeah.
I know what you're talking about now. It's not bad.
There it is.
It's not bad.
Now you know. I have nightmares about that song.
I'm sorry, Barrett. That was Jacob. Blame Jacob. All right, for playing the song. So, but it reminds us all what you're talking about. Barrett, have an awesome week, man. Safe travels.
Thanks, guys.